From a real pilot who went into an inverted flat spin and never recovered while filming Top Gun, to the military's insane script demands, today you're about to discover 15 plot-altering secrets that made this film a multi-generational legend. Number 1. The first secret that changed everything? Those F-14 Tomcats cost as much as $7,800 per hour to fly. Yeah, you heard that right. Every single minute those jets were in the air was burning through serious cash. The Navy wasn't just lending out their toys for fun, they had strict limits on flight time, which meant Tony Scott and his crew had exactly zero room for multiple takes or creative experimentation up there. Every aerial shot had to be planned down to the second. No, let's try that again, but with more feeling. This constraint actually shaped the entire visual language of the movie. Those tight, precise dogfight sequences you love, they exist because the filmmakers had to nail it on the first try. Number 2. This is a sound design secret that turns the jets into monsters. The roar of the F-14S you hear isn't just real jet audio, it's something far more aggressive. To make the dogfights feel primal and intense, to give the aircraft the personality of lethal living predators, the sound team layered the recorded sounds of lion roars and elephant calls over the conventional jet engine noise. That's why the F-14S and the enemy MiGs don't sound like mere machines when they scream past the camera. They sound like warring beasts in the sky.
Don't tell them that yet.
This kind of detail is what separates a great action movie from a legendary one. The filmmakers knew they needed more than just technical realism, which can often sound flat and sterile. They needed emotional realism. When Maverick is locked in a fight, the jet isn't just a piece of metal. It's an extension of his will, a predator hunting its prey. By incorporating the natural sounds of apex predators, the sound designers tapped into something deep and evolutionary in the audience. You don't just hear a plane, you feel a threat. You feel the raw aggression of the dogfight. This technique created an auditory experience that was far more visceral and engaging than simple jet engine noise could ever be. It's a brilliant piece of cinematic trickery that fundamentally alters the intensity of every single aerial sequence.
Is this your idea of fun, Mav? Greetings.
Number 3. It gets even weirder. The MiG-28 doesn't exist. Like, at all. The enemy aircraft you see in those intense dogfights are actually American F-5 Tigers painted black. The Pentagon was cool with lending F-14s for the good guys, but they drew the line at providing actual Soviet aircraft for authenticity. So the filmmakers got creative and basically invented a fictional enemy fighter. This gave them complete creative freedom in the dogfights, because they weren't bound by real Soviet tactics or capabilities. They could make their fake MiGs do whatever the story needed. Pretty clever workaround, right? Here is the biggest visual giveaway that only aviation geeks noticed. The F-5 Tiger is a small single-engine fighter, but the actual Soviet jets it was supposed to represent, like the MiG-29, were massive twin-engine aircraft. This means every time you see a MiG-28, you are looking at a jet that is visually far too small and underpowered to realistically challenge an F-14 Tomcat. The filmmakers were betting on the fact that the black paint job and the speed of the action would hide this massive difference in size and engine configuration.
You know, it wasn't war for me. It was the beauty of those airplanes and to fly them.
Number 4. But here's where it gets really interesting. The Pentagon didn't just loan aircraft and walk away. They had script approval. Yeah, the Department of Defense literally had to sign off on the story. Originally, scenes were set in different locations. Character backgrounds were altered, and entire plot points were shifted to make sure the Navy looked good. The military wasn't just providing props. They were actively shaping the narrative. Charlie's character wasn't originally a civilian contractor. Maverick's backstory got tweaked. Even the location of Top Gun itself was moved to make the Navy's training programs look more appealing. Did you notice during those dogfight scenes that something felt familiar about those enemy planes? Most viewers never caught it, but once you know they're American jets, you can't unsee it. The silhouette, the engine placement. It's all wrong for a Soviet fighter. These military requirements created this weird tension throughout production. On one hand, you've got Hollywood trying to make an exciting action movie. On the other hand, you've got the Pentagon making sure America's military looks heroic and competent. The result? A film that walks this incredible line between authentic military procedure and pure cinematic spectacle. Every time you see those F-14s launching off the carrier deck, you're watching the result of months of negotiation between creative vision and military image management. The crazy part is how these constraints accidentally created some of the movie's most iconic moments. That limited flight time meant every aerial sequence had to serve multiple purposes: character development, plot advancement, visual spectacle, all packed into precious minutes of expensive flight time. No wonder those dogfight scenes feel so intense and purposeful. They literally couldn't afford to waste a second up there. So yeah, the next time you watch Top Gun, remember that every aerial shot represents this incredible balancing act between military reality and Hollywood magic.
And I remember I didn't really address Top Gun during that time period. I was more focused on shooting legend. and it was quite a learning experience for me. And it's the first time I went, oh my God, every element is important in making movies. I went to every department and I would just sit there and just asked a lot of questions, sometimes just watched. Just want to learn as much as I possibly can about this craft.
Number 5. Within weeks of Top Gun hitting theaters, Navy recruitment booths started popping up in theater lobbies. The military was literally capitalizing on the movie's success in real time. But here's the thing, this wasn't some happy accident. The Pentagon knew exactly what they were doing when they demanded script changes to make pilots look heroic. They needed Top Gun to be a recruitment tool, which meant any storyline that showed American pilots as anything less than brave, skilled, and morally upright had to go. This requirement fundamentally altered character arcs and plot points throughout the entire film. Maverick couldn't just be a reckless hotshot. He had to be a reckless hotshot with a heart of gold who ultimately proves himself worthy. The recruitment angle worked so well that Navy enlistment jumped 500% after the movie's release. 1,000%. The Pentagon's investment in script control paid off in ways they probably never imagined, but it also meant that certain realistic aspects of military life got sanitized out of the story. The original script had more complex moral situations, gray areas where American pilots might not always be the clear heroes. All of that got smoothed over to create the squeaky clean military image that would inspire young people to sign up. Number 6. That elevator scene between Maverick and Charlie.
It looks like you need another shower.
Right.
That wasn't in the original cut. Test audiences thought the romance felt forced and unnatural. So months after principal photography wrapped, they brought Tom Cruise and Kelly McGillis back to film additional romantic scenes. This delay meant Cruise had already filmed The Color of Money and had a completely different, slightly longer haircut. The Take My Breath Away montage sequences, also reshoots.
Watching every motion in my foolish lover's game.
The studio was panicking because early test screenings showed audiences weren't buying the love story, and without that emotional anchor, the whole movie felt like just another action flick. These reshoots weren't minor tweaks either. They fundamentally changed the pacing and emotional core of the film. The original version had Charlie as more of a professional colleague who gradually becomes interested in Maverick. The reshot version makes her practically swoon from their first meeting. If you watch closely, you can actually spot the continuity error. Cruise's hair is noticeably longer in the reshot elevator and bar scenes than in the surrounding footage. Whether that feels natural or forced probably depends on your tolerance for 80s movie romance. But either way, it's wild that some of the movie's most memorable romantic moments only exist because test audiences basically said, we need more kissing. Oh, and here's a fun bonus fact. Tom Cruise didn't just act like a pilot. He insisted on flying in the F-14s himself to capture authentic reactions. The reality of those G-forces was brutal. He got so airsick during filming that he threw up in his helmet multiple times. This extreme physical reality is what makes those intense cockpit shots so genuine and visceral.
Well, Tom was starting out in his career, even though he'd done a few movies, and I think he was looking to make a mark. Not only am I just a good-looking guy, but I really know how to do what it takes to tell a good story and create a good character.
Number 7. The volleyball sequence nearly got cut entirely due to a massive conflict between the studio and director Tony Scott. Scott fought to keep it, arguing it was essential for character development and showing the pilots' camaraderie outside of combat situations. But here's the crazy part. Scheduling conflicts meant they had to film the volleyball scene on one of the hottest days of the year, which is why everyone looks so genuinely sweaty and exhausted. That wasn't movie magic makeup. Those guys were actually dying in the heat. The authentic exhaustion you see on screen came from real physical discomfort, which ironically made the scene more believable than any acting could have achieved. Think about how hot it was. Tom Cruise was wearing jeans on the beach. To make the scene look even more dramatic, Scott used intense golden hour backlighting and practical lights with diffusion filters, giving the whole sequence its signature warm, hyper-stylized look. The pattern here is fascinating. Almost every iconic moment in Top Gun exists because someone somewhere said, this isn't working. And forced changes test audiences literally rewrote the romance. Studio executives almost killed the volleyball scene. The Pentagon reshaped the entire military portrayal. These weren't small notes. They were fundamental alterations that changed the movie's DNA. Makes you wonder what the original version would have looked like, doesn't it?
The volleyball scene is like, I knew that was kind of like a place to score. And just because it was going to be music, it was going to be a montage, how handsome, young virile bodies in the military and guys in the sand and the sweat.
Number 8. It hits different when you realize Goose's death scene got completely rewritten because of Navy image concerns.
Goose! You're gonna have to put this out! I can't reach the ejection handle! Eject! I'm trying!
The original script had Goose dying in a combat situation or at the hands of enemy fire. But remember those Pentagon script approval requirements? Yeah, they had a problem with showing American pilots getting killed by foreign enemies. So the writers had to completely rework one of the movie's most emotional moments. Instead of dying heroically in battle, Goose dies in a training accident during a flat spin recovery.
Watch the canopy!
The Navy was okay with pilot error or mechanical failure, but not with enemy pilots outgunning Americans. This change actually made Maverick's guilt and trauma more complex. Instead of losing his best friend to enemy fire, something every pilot knows is a risk, he loses Goose to what feels like a preventable accident during routine training. A combat death would have offered Maverick the closure of knowing his friend died a hero in the line of duty, a tragedy accepted by military culture. But a training death introduces a crushing, almost existential doubt. Was I good enough? Could I have saved him? That's why Maverick's psychological breakdown feels so intense. It's not just grief, it's this crushing sense that Goose died for nothing. The rewrite accidentally created a deeper emotional wound than the original combat death would have delivered. The emotional payoff for the entire third act, Maverick overcoming his immense guilt, only works because the writers were forced to make the death feel like a personal failure, not a wartime casualty. Number 9. That gorgeous opening sequence with the F-14S launching off the aircraft carrier at sunset? Scott literally paid the Navy to change the ship's course so the sun would be in the right position. We're talking about altering the path of a massive nuclear-powered aircraft carrier for a movie shot. The Navy was initially like, absolutely not, but Scott kept throwing money at the problem until they agreed to a minor course correction. The reported cost for that one brief course change was a staggering $25,000, paid directly from the production budget. That golden hour lighting you see as those jets catapult into the sky? That cost extra, and Scott paid it out of his own pocket because he knew it would make the sequence legendary.
Because he understood the publicity that this could bring. Now, the people below him didn't believe in it, but John understood the value of what this could do, and it was like a recruitment video for them.
The crazy part is how that one decision influenced the entire visual style of the movie. Once Scott established that golden, warm look for the opening, the cinematography team had to maintain that aesthetic throughout the film. It's why so many scenes have that amber sunset glow, even when they're not actually filmed during golden hour. They were matching the mood Scott literally bought by changing a warship's direction. Number 10. Originally, Maverick was written as purely cocky and arrogant, a hotshot pilot with no real depth or growth arc. But Cruise pushed for script changes that would make Maverick more sympathetic and relatable. He wanted audiences to understand why Maverick acts the way he does, not just see him as a one-dimensional show-off. So they added the backstory about his father's classified death, the vulnerability beneath the bravado, and the genuine friendship with Goose that grounds his character. This wasn't just ego. Cruise understood that audiences needed someone to root for, not just someone to watch fly planes really fast. The character changes he pushed for are why Maverick feels like a real person dealing with real psychological issues rather than just a generic action hero. Without Cruise's input, we might have gotten a much less emotionally engaging film. Number 11. The Navy only allowed 2 live missile firings for the entire production too. Everything else you see, all those dramatic missile launches and explosions,
Goose, where's he going? Come on, come on, come on. Keep coming, keep coming.
those are miniatures and special effects. This massive constraint forced the filmmakers to be incredibly creative about how they shot aerial combat. They had to make 2 real missile shots carry the weight of multiple dogfight scenes throughout the movie. The solution was brilliant. They filmed those 2 live shots from multiple angles and then used miniature work and clever editing to create the illusion of constant missile combat. It's why the dogfights feel so intense and immediate. Every missile shot had to count, so they made sure each one looked absolutely perfect. Number 12. Early drafts were called Top Guns, plural, and focused on an entire class of pilots rather than just Maverick's story. The setting wasn't even Miramar initially. They considered Pensacola, Florida, and even looked at Air Force bases before settling on the Navy's fighter weapons school. The shift from ensemble piece to Maverick-focused story happened during rewrites, but it fundamentally changed the entire narrative approach. Instead of showing how the system works, they decided to show how one pilot navigates the system. The location changes were huge too. Different bases would have meant different aircraft, different training methods, different military culture. Miramar's proximity to Hollywood made logistics easier, but it also gave the film that specific Southern California vibe that became part of its identity. The beach volleyball, the sunset flights, even the bar scenes, all of that came from choosing Miramar over other options.
Don't you see yourself as being the sex symbol that the audience does?
Not really, no.
Number 13. The original vision for Top Gun was way more intense than what we got. Early drafts had higher pilot casualty rates, more complex moral situations, and a much grittier portrayal of military life. Charlie's character was originally going to reveal classified information that gets pilots killed. Maverick's recklessness was supposed to have real consequences for other people, not just himself. The Pentagon's involvement softened all of these edges. creating the more triumphant, heroic version we know today. In the grittier original version, Charlie wasn't just a love interest, she was a major antagonist. The classified information she was going to reveal would have directly led to the death of several pilots, making her a morally compromised figure and turning the romance into a true conflict of loyalty and ethics. Number 14. Top Gun was inspired by a California magazine article about the real Navy fighter weapons school, but the adaptation process changed almost everything. The real Top Gun program was more technical, less dramatic, and focused on tactics rather than individual heroics. Hollywood took the basic concept, elite pilots training to be the best, and built an entirely fictional story around it. The real pilots at Miramar had mixed reactions to the movie. Some loved the attention and respect it brought to their profession. Others felt it misrepresented what they actually do. But everyone agreed it changed how the public viewed Navy aviation forever. Number 15. All these changes, constraints, and creative decisions accidentally created something bigger than just a movie. They created a cultural touchstone that influenced everything from fashion to career choices to how Americans think about military service. The success of Top Gun Maverick 36 years later proves that these original creative choices created something timeless. Those aviator sunglasses, the leather jackets, the whole aesthetic. That wasn't just costume design, that became part of American culture. The movie's influence went way beyond entertainment into actual military recruitment, aviation interest, and even international perceptions of American military power. Think about it. The Navy's strict rule against showing pilots killed by enemies forced the emotionally devastating death of Goose in a training accident, creating the dramatic tension needed for the third act. The studio's panic over a weak love story led to reshoots that gave us the iconic, swooning romance. Even the insane $7,800 per hour cost of the F-14S forced the director to place the emotional weight on the ground scenes, giving the characters depth they wouldn't have had otherwise. Every single limitation we've discussed, from the 2-missile budget to the $25,000 course correction for a single sunset shot, was a creative obstacle that, when overcome, resulted in a more focused, more visually stunning, and ultimately more legendary film. The constraints didn't hurt the movie. They made it a blueprint for how to craft a blockbuster. The movie's influence went way beyond entertainment into actual military recruitment, aviation interest, and even international perceptions of American military power. Every constraint forced a creative solution that made the movie better. Drop a comment below with your favorite memory from back in the day, and let us know if we missed any of your favorite unscripted moments or which movie we should cover next.